All right, this is the last video of Chapter 8. This is a shorter one because it focuses on three types of unemployment, right? We've talked about the unemployment rate, labor force participation rate, employment to population ratio, how we measure all of those, how we calculate it. We've talked about the business cycle. But now in this section, instead of talking about numbers, we're just going to talk about the types of unemployment, right? Because it turns out there's different ways that people can become unemployed. Some are a little more detrimental than others. So we're going to go through these types of unemployment. So really there's three broad categories or three types of unemployment. Okay, we'll talk about each one of them on the subsequent slides. So turns out there's what we call frictional unemployment, structural unemployment, and cyclical unemployment. Okay. All right. So let's talk about frictional unemployment first. Right. So here we've got the definition, displayed before you. But really, frictional unemployment is the type of unemployment that's always going to exist out there in an economy, okay? And it's the unemployment that's caused by the fact that we live in an imperfect world, right? It takes time for someone who wants to find a job or maybe wants to switch jobs for that person to find that new employer, right? It doesn't happen instantaneously, right? You're not sitting on your couch one day and you think, boy, I'd really like to work at Chase Bank. And then, shazam, man, I'm working at Chase Bank. Right? It'd be nice if that happened. It does not work that way, right? If someone wants to find a new job, right, they first got to go clean up their resume, go and post it some places. If they know someone who works at a company, they can send it to them so they could possibly pass it on to the hiring folks. Right? All of this takes time, okay? And that's what frictional unemployment is. So as the definition here says, it is the unemployment that is caused by just the normal difficulty of immediately matching someone who's looking for work. And again, they have the skills, they have the abilities, with someone who's looking to hire that employee, right? Just takes time. Maybe it's a couple weeks, maybe it's a month, maybe it's 2 or 3 months, okay? So as the second bullet says, this type of unemployment will always be present in an economy, right? And it's the type of unemployment that each of you will experience at some point in your life, right? You will switch jobs, you will change positions, you will move to other companies, you might be laid off briefly and then find another job. But this is basically that type of unemployment that comes about because it takes a little bit of time for people to find a new job. Even if they have the skills and abilities and somebody's willing to hire them, it just takes time for those two people to find each other, okay? So an example here would be, let's see, you're working, right? Working. Let's see, you suppose you're working at a Twinkie factory. Okay. Let's suppose Twinkie factory lays you off. You get laid off, let go. All right. Well, it's going to take time. Takes time to find new job at spam factory. Okay, so that's what frictional unemployment is. The unemployment that comes about, it's usually a short period, and it's basically when people are in between jobs. They are looking for work, and it just takes time for an employer to find them. Okay, that's frictional unemployment. Structural unemployment is a little different. Okay, so structural unemployment comes about when people really don't have the skills to fill some particular jobs. Okay, so as the definition here says, it is the type of unemployment that results from workers not having the correct skills to fill the available jobs. And again, this type will always be present in our economy. Right? So the example here is, right, suppose I work in a coal mine, right? Working all day in the blue sky mine. Just kidding. So I'm working in a coal mine, right? I'm swinging an axe and loading bins of coal, right? And the skills I have are basically loading bins of coal and swinging an axe, right? Suppose I get laid off. Let's see, I am let go, right? And suppose there's a company in town, hiring software programmers. Run out of space. Okay. Right. But I don't have those skills. I'm a coal miner, right? I know how to swing an axe or pick, pick. There we go. It tells you how much I know about coal mining. Right, I know how to swing a pick. I know how to load a cart with coal. I know how to get that stuff up and out of the mine. I wouldn't know anything about programming or how to write code or something like that. So structural unemployment is that type of unemployment where there are jobs available, but people don't have the skills to fill those jobs, okay? So a company in town is hiring software programmers, but I can't, or I am not hired. I am not hired because I do not have programming skills. Okay, that's what we call structural unemployment, okay? So frictional is the type of unemployment that comes about when people are switching jobs. Structural is the type of unemployment that comes about really in a modern economy because you have some people who know how to do jobs that are kind of the old way of doing things. And the economy changes over time. There's new way of doing things, but those employees don't have the skills to take the jobs for the new way of doing things, okay? So that's why structural unemployment will always be present in a modern economy, right? You're gonna have some people whose skills are just not relevant anymore. And they either need to find another job where those skills will work, or they need to go back to school or retrain themselves to get different skills, okay? All right, the third type and the last type is what we call cyclical unemployment. Now, this is the type of unemployment that we are about to have a lot more of, right? This is unemployment that results from an economic downturn, right? It has nothing to do with skills. It has nothing to do with, employer and employee finding each other. It simply has to do with the fact that the economy stinks. And if this coronavirus has as big an impact as people think, the economy is just going to stink. So there's lots of people with skills. There's lots of people who would love to find a job. But if employers are not looking to hire people because the economy stinks, that's what we call cyclical unemployment, okay? So again, these people who are unemployed have skills. They're willing to work. But because of the decline of economic activity, right, there are no employers looking for them. Okay, so those are the three types of unemployment, right? Frictional unemployment is the type that comes about because it just takes time for people to switch jobs. Structural has to do with people not having the skills to take a particular job. Cyclical unemployment has to do with the fact that the economy stinks and there's a lot more people who are just out of work, okay? So those are the three types. Now, before we wrap up chapter 8, we've got a slide or two here that really just talks in general about a term or two. In the book, and maybe if you're watching the news channels now, which many of you probably are, you might hear someone talk about full employment, right? Now, a lot of people might think, well, full employment, that means everybody's working, right? The unemployment rate would be 0. No, that's not the case. So full employment does not mean that everyone is working. Full employment means that after accounting for the type of unemployment that occurs because people switch jobs, frictional unemployment, and after accounting for structural unemployment, which is a part of a modern economy, because people with old skills lose their jobs and they don't have the new skills to take the new jobs, right? So after accounting for frictional and structural unemployment, there are no other unemployed people, right? So full employment simply means no cyclical unemployment. So in the United States, as of a couple weeks ago, before coronavirus came and caused mayhem, we were at full employment, right? There was no cyclical unemployment. There were no people, for the most part, no people unemployed due to tough economic times, right? So full employment means you still have frictional unemployment, you still have structural unemployment, but no cyclical unemployment, right? So full employment does not mean 0% unemployment rate. That is not what that means. It means you have some sort of unemployment rate. Like today, we have a 3.5% unemployment rate. Well, as of February, we did, right? Okay. Now, you'll also hear people talk about the natural rate of unemployment, right? So, for the most part, in the United States, our full employment rate generally is usually somewhere around 5%, okay? When the unemployment rate in the United States gets down to about 5%, usually that means we're at full employment. That is, there's no cyclical unemployment, okay? So the fact that in February of this year, we had a 3.5% unemployment rate, it means, yeah, we were well below the full employment level, okay? Now, keep in mind, this full employment, or what we sometimes call the natural rate of unemployment, is going to vary country to country, right? In Spain, this is actually a bit higher. Same in France, Italy. Their natural rate of unemployment is a little bit higher and has to do with the differences in labor laws that they have compared to the United States, okay? Okay, so as I mentioned before, this rate is sometimes also called the natural rate of unemployment. That is, it's the rate that naturally exists in an economy when the economy is doing well, okay? All right, so that is it. That is the end of Chapter 8, and we will move on to Chapter 9.